It show, and contrary to popular belief, I am not the one who brought the potato salad with the raisins in it. I might look like that guy, but I am not that guy. Welcome to it. It is a Monday, and we've got Monday Night Raw tonight. They don't take a break, so we won't take a break, and we will get into it. And if you are a pro creator or an amateur creator, this show is brought to you by Newer. Go over to newer.com and use code Logan to save yourself that do-re-mi basso dough, because we all know that we could use a little bit more of that dough in our pocket. Today we've got Kendrick McKnight, otherwise known as the Life of Kendrick. However, I think Kendrick Lamar might have something different to say about that. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, man. Just enjoying my Memorial Day and appreciative of the opportunity to talk to you today.
All right. Well, no, this is your show, man. You wanted to talk some WWE. I obviously was a wrestling manager in the late 1990s. No, not really. The early 2000s. And I was once top 500 in Pro Wrestling Illustrated. I, of course, was Templeton Peck, the hardcore manager of Hardcore Champions, the only mind that matters in wrestling today. The man, the myth, the miracle, the excellence of intelligence, the innovator of information, the pinnacle of perfection, the evolution of revolution, the truth, and a better man than Trouble Man. I got more style than Joey. I live more dangerously than Paulie, with more brains than Bobby and more woo than Flair. If it's violence you want, it's violence you get, because pain and torture are my cross. And tonight, it's your cross to bear. Win without me if you can't get paid if I let you. I'm the man who put the $1 million man in my pocket. I have 1,001 suits and the shoes to match. I used to manage in ECW, NWA. I was around doing that when I was 19 to about 22 years of age, traveling this country with sweaty men, going to sweaty gyms and getting beat up for little to no money. It was quite exciting. I started a riot in North Attleboro, Massachusetts once. The cops had to take me to my car, and adult men were trying to beat me up while I was going to my car. And the cop finally turns to him and goes, he's a college kid going back to Connecticut in his red Honda Civic. You might want to drop it. So that's my history in wrestling. Where do you come from, and how do you get involved in the WWE and all of the other great leagues that are out there?
My name is Kendrick McKnight. I'm born and raised in Goldsboro, North Carolina. Don't bother even looking where that is. I got into WWE when I was around maybe like 7 or 8 years old. I was just a kid flipping through the channels, and I just happened to see this guy come out to his entrance music with a sprinter belt, jean shorts, sneakers. Happened to be John Cena, and I was just hooked right then and there. And I was just like, who is this guy? What is he about? And what does he do? And right then and there, I was just hooked, and I've been a fan ever since.
All right, so you're a younger guy. Have you been able to go back and actually watch when people really cared about wrestling? I mean, in WrestleMania, when Macho Man Randy Savage got Elizabeth back, put her on his shoulder and walked around the ring, people were legitimately crying in the audience. You got to go back and watch that clip, because there are kids bawling like the Beatles had just reunited or something like that. You're not going to get that today because it's athletes and actors, which is fine. I understand we are in a different period of time, but have you been able to go back into some of the glory days of wrestling? Do you know your history?
Yeah, I've seen clips here and there in the 80s and the 90s. The Hogans, the Pipers, the Randy Savages.
So Bruno Sammartino is out of your purview then.
Yeah, that's kind of like too far. I've seen clips here and there of Bruno, but like,
have you ever seen Randy Macho Man Savage versus Ricky Steamboat in WrestleMania 3? They stole the show in front of 96,000 people.
Again, clips, but not the full match itself.
Okay, fair enough. So even though you can't see John Cena, you saw him before he had the bald spot in the back, which is actually in the new game, by the way. When you pick John Cena, you can get the little bald spot back there. And John, seriously, as I always let him know, hit a tanning booth for the love of God. Hit a freaking tanning booth, bro. Jesus, if you're going to pursue this career for 6 more months, Go sit down in a tanning booth. It'll do you good. You are pasty as on TV, my friend. But you fell in love with John Cena. All right, that was your the first dude that you liked. Did you like him because he seemed like he was real and he spoke to you?
Absolutely. The hustle, loyalty, respect, those morals, those ethics that I kind of like live within myself as I got older because of John Cena. Guys like Triple H, guys like Shawn Michaels, guys like CM Punk, Randy Orton that went up against Cena that I genuinely hated during those times when they feuded with John because of my love of John Cena. And as I got older, of course, like I spread out, like I got more guys was on my radar, like a Randy, like a CM Punk, of course, that I grew over to like. But during that time of Cena, just the reign, 05, 06, 07, 08, yeah, everybody I didn't care for that he went up against.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't watching wrestling back then. I was done with my career, and it took me a while to watch wrestling again after getting out of it because it was very scary as a 19-year-old kid going into these locker rooms when these locker rooms were very scary places to be back in the day, especially when you were a teenager with just a little bit of gold in a pager. But wrestling has progressed, and now it's athletes and actors. It is it's much different. I don't like it as much because I can't get emotionally involved in these storylines because there's no emotionality in them. They're either trying to be funny or they're just trying to put somebody over. There's no like back in the day, you used to have these year to 2 year long storylines that would progress out and get crazy. We don't really see that as much here. What do you like and what do you dislike about the way wrestling is today?
I like the opportunity of seeing more in other stars, getting their opportunities to shine on either a Raw or a SmackDown. Guys that you don't really particularly see, or getting an opportunity to shine. Guys like Karrion Kross that particularly doesn't have that look of a quote unquote WWE superstar, but due to social media, which is another cool aspect of wrestling nowadays, is like you see what he's doing and you see how passionate he is about where he is, and you see due to the social media aspect of like we want Cross or we want this guy to be pushed, he gets more spotlight on a Raw, on a SmackDown, and something that I don't like. Maybe some of the political aspects of wrestling, because like, say for example, a Cody versus Roman Reigns match, where like we will want Cody Rhodes to win at WrestleMania 39, but due to the political aspect of this is a guy that we want to be pushed to the moon, right? This is a guy that we want the title reign to be overtake Bruno Sammartino. Even though the right choice is for Cody to win on this night, to be the next guy, to take the reins, if you will, and be that next guy for the next generation.
Okay, fair enough. Some would argue that TNA and AEW are putting out better product right now. I tend to agree with them. What do you think?
Yeah, it's reasonable. TNA has definitely upgraded into where they were a couple years ago. We got Nick Nemeth, aka Dolph Ziggler, now out there. Joe Hendry, the new sensation that's going on right now, and even the women is doing really well. Now going back into being called TNA Wrestling, and I really love their presentation now. And AEW, they just had Double or Nothing just last night, which they had a pretty solid pay-per-view, with Adam Hangman Page going up against Will Ospreay, which was an amazing match. And the right man won there with Adam winning the Owen Hart tournament. And I'm really enjoying what they have going on with AEW and TNA. But I'm just a WWE guy, born and raised with it, and it's always going to be number one for me. But I do enjoy outside promotions as well.
When I was growing up, it was called the WWF. And before I was around, it was called the WWWF. When Vince Sr. owned it, he added another W in there because he's really crazy like that. And then Vince bought it, dropped the W off, and then obviously the World Wild Federation or whatever came after him, and now we are WWE for everything. Do you think that Triple H is doing a good job as producing these events?
He's doing pretty well as far as kind of like what we were saying earlier, giving more stars opportunities that didn't really get the opportunity to showcase when Vince was around. Superstars like a Zelina Vega getting a United States Championship push to be champion. Karrion Kross, guys like that doesn't really have that, I guess, star power like a Cena, like a Brock Lesnar, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns. That's the idea of professional wrestling, building stars, not relying on people like all the time. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not going to be here forever. So the idea is to help build for the future, and Triple H is doing that at the moment.
How do you feel about Eric Bischoff and Hogan and their new league?
Hulk
Hogan and Eric Bischoff have a new wrestling league. Are you aware of this?
I am not. What is that about?
Okay, well, it's a wrestling league. They're creating a new freestyle wrestling league that they say will be more brutal and more honest than the WWE and AEW and TNA. You may want to look into that. Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff obviously legends in the industry. Eric Bischoff, very famous for being the lead guy who brought WCW to the forefront and created the Monday Night Wars, which was the best time and the best thing in wrestling. You had the writers for WWE and WCW going down during the week to Philadelphia, to the ECW arena, the 2300, if you will, and going down there and watching those matches to be able to go back and use some of what ECW was doing in WCW and in WWE. And it created the Monday Night Wars. Specifically, the fact Eric Bischoff is legendary for doing one really, really important thing. He made wrestling live. Wrestling on TV wasn't live at that general time. I'm sure it was live back in the 50s and 60s. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but the very first thing to ever be broadcast on television, when television was created, was a wrestling match. Indeed, it was. So I'm sure those were probably live simulcast matches. I don't know. But at this particular time, Raw and Saturday morning and all of that, it was all pre-taped stuff. That's what Vince was pushing. And Eric Bischoff said, we're going to go live. And then he would get on TV and tell you what the outcome of the matches were over on that night's promotion at WWE. So you didn't have to flip channels in between commercial breaks, as he would say, which obviously pushed Vince into a corner where he had a decision to make, and you can't have another promotion being able to dog you like that. So that's what created all of these live wrestling matches that we get to see on a regular basis now, which is pretty exciting stuff to be able to push that. And that was just a really interesting time because before this, Vince didn't have any competition that was outside of Japan. And when I say competition, look, he didn't really care about Japan, but they had some really great talent over there. But he didn't have anybody. Jim Crockett, he brought them up. I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Crockett, but that's what WCW ended up being after Ted Turner bought it. That's where you get Starrcade and all of these war games that was created during that time as well. And you get all of that, and it pushes wrestling in a trajectory that ended up where we are today. It made it fun to watch because there were two big titans battling it out every single Monday, whereas most people would have picked a different day of the week. They said, no, we're going to go head to head and we're going to beat you. And they did for about a year and 2 months or something like that in the ratings. And then you had ECW just being crazy. I got to hang out with Sabu, luckily enough. I want to say it was about a month and a half the last time we got to see each other. Obviously, he passed away. Don't know if you know this or not, but Mick Foley, he auctioned off his WWE World Title belt to pay for Sabu's medical care at one point recently. So Mick Foley doesn't even have his own World Championship belt anymore.
Wow.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah. That's interesting.
It is interesting. Now, obviously, WrestleMania this year. How did you feel about that? Wasn't very good.
What's that?
It wasn't very good. Day two, I did not like. Day one was all right.
Day one was really good. I would honestly say day one was better than night one for sure. Overall, it was a good event. I feel like a lot of things could have been a lot better as far as the build to it. Because there was a lot of matches that was just like put on matches. Like, oh, we got to have this person on the card. You know what I mean? Like, oh, here we go. There was not much story with a lot of matches there, but was the action.
But that brings me to my point, back to my point where I'm saying the storylines aren't that developed these days. I mean, Dom likes chicken nuggets. Oh, okay, cool. Like, come on, people. Can we try a little bit harder? Can we dig a little bit deeper?
Absolutely.
Continue what you were saying, though.
Oh yeah. Good matches, but like I said, like I'm real big on like story. Like, what's the story? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like the Cena Rose match, it had story there. John doing what he had to do to.
Have you applied?
Ruin wrestling. What's that?
Have you applied? They've opened up the writers' room to anybody can apply now because they realize that they're stuck in a corner right now.
Yeah, we should, huh? You and I both.
No, I don't want to do that. Wrestling industry's terrible. I wouldn't go back, but Freddie, no one even knew Freddie Prinze Jr. was in that writer's room for like 9 years. They're like, really, Freddie Prinze Jr.? When everybody started seeing him host some of the after stuff. No, I did wrestling, man. I took my bumps. I'm good. And the writers' room wouldn't like me anyways. I'm too old school for that. Look, when I managed a wrestler, I had talks. I did dark matches over WWE, and I had talks with them. But it was during the time where they only hired female valets, and the only managers that they had were writers, except for Paul Bearer. Everybody else, like Bruce Pritchard, he was just a writer who got to do some characters. Jim Cornette famously told me if I got breast implants, he would hire me. He was half joking and he was half serious because I'm pretty sure they would have put me on a Raw for like one episode. And then I would have been stuck with those knockers for the rest of the time. Just like, who's knocking? Let me in. All right. So McMahon, by the way, is looking to start a new league. Mr. Vince is going to start a new wrestling league. His non-compete is over, and he can get back into the wrestling industry, and he's looking to do so. He will not be going with Hogan or Bischoff and doing that league, which is they're calling it a freestyle wrestling league. So whatever that means, we'll find out in the future. But how do you feel about Vince coming back to wrestling? Good or bad for the sport?
Mixed feelings about it, based off of, we all know who Vince McMahon is, what he brought to the wrestling world. He definitely made a lot of moments that are just timeless and classic. But at the same time, can you split from Vince McMahon, the character and the person and what he has allegedly had done? It's hard.
Oh, no, he did it. There's no allegedly, man. He did it and paid for it. There's multiple occasions where he paid women to not speak about what he did. So we know he did it. When you pay somebody $4.2 million to not say something, guess what? You did that. But that's him. However, and you know what's probably the most egregious thing the dude ever did was continue the show after Owen's death. I mean, if that doesn't tell you about the man, and his marriage was a marriage of convenience. She's like, you go do what you want. I'm running for senator, and I'm going to spend all of our money. You know how much money she wasted on losing 2 senatorial races in Connecticut? Because I was living in Connecticut, doing my show over at ESPN at the time. It's tens of millions of dollars. And that's, 20 years ago now. So you do the math on the inflation. I mean, the tariffs are too high. Just imagine what the inflation is like. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the game that all the kids are talking about on the playgrounds and all the adults are talking about around the water cooler. It's time to play 5 Questions. And 5 Questions is brought to you by Newhouse. Go over to newhouse.com. Use code Logan Radio Rocks. It will save you a bunch of that cashish on all of your office decor, home decor, a good place to put your butt. Trust me, if you're sitting in a gaming chair, you're not doing yourself justice. And if you're asking yourself, where can I find these great links to Newer and Newhouse, Logan? Well, you'll be able to find them in the About section of whichever platform you're watching us on. I know we're on 5. You pick one, do your due diligence, and go buy a good chair or a couch, love seat, whichever you want to do. It's up to you. But use that code Logan Radio Rocks. Save that cash. All right, question 1 of 5 questions. Did he put applesauce on his cheeseburgers? How do you feel about that?
You said, did he?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, man, I don't even know how to feel about that.
Well, let me tell you this. I met Diddy for the first time at an R. Kelly concert, okay? Yeah, And now that I look back on that, I mean, Shaq was there, D. Wade was there, we were all there. But now that I look back on that, and I'm like, hold on a second, I met Diddy at a R. Kelly concert? Wow, that's up. I mean, you can't even, that's like the start of a joke that goes nowhere. P. Diddy walks into an R. Kelly concert. Dun, dun, dun. I can't even believe it. But yeah, it came out in the trial yesterday that he likes to put applesauce on his cheeseburgers. The funny part about that coming out, Kendrick, is that's not even close to the weirdest shit that we've heard. Okay? We've heard a lot of crazy stuff. The thing that blows my mind, and I don't care what you say, Ben, I know this was the nail in the coffin for the divorce. That video of J-Lo walking around the Diddy party with just boobs hanging out, those are some famous breasts just hanging out at a Diddy party. Oh, man. And guess what? Got that divorce paper like 2 weeks after that video came out. How you feel about that? I feel like you're in shock right now.
Very much so. So you was at a Diddy party?
I never went to a Diddy party. I was never invited to a Diddy party. We were at the AAA Arena for the New Year's show, which was, who was it? Alicia Keys opening up for R. Kelly. And I was there as after I left ESPN, we did the sports talk show down in Miami. And I was there hanging out with Shaq and D. Wade. And Fat Joe was there, looking very thin, by the way. And I went over to tell him how thin he looked, actually. And he looked at me, he goes, hey, man, you ever seen that spring break video of me with my shirt off? And I was like, yeah. He goes, titties flapping in the wind, man. That haunts me to this day. But yeah. So, yeah, I was never invited. Diddy, I never really spoke to him too much. He struck me as a very uncool dude in the room. I thought he would have swagger. He doesn't really. He's kind of an awkward guy. D. Wade, Jason Taylor, even Shaq, they have swagger. But I don't know. There was something about him that was a little off. And now we know what it is. All right, that's question number 1. Question number 2. Have you seen Jimmy the Mouth of the South Heart lately?
I have not.
All right, he looks amazing, absolutely amazing, and he's 81 years old, and it's tough to believe. Why do you think a guy like that who went through the 80s, being on the road with Hogan, being on the road with Bruce Beefcake, being on the road with all of these guys who were known to party it up, how do you think a manager like Jimmy the Mouth of the South Heart gets to age to 81? Because wrestlers don't have a good shelf life. Most of them die in their 50s.
Absolutely. Probably just staying out the way, eating healthy, and just actually retiring and staying away from the sport.
Oh, he's been back. He's always around. He still works with Hogan. I think he actually helps manage some of Hogan's retail stores and stuff like that. And being on the road as a wrestler, especially then, it's hard to eat healthy on the road. Now they've got buses and they've got private chefs and all of that stuff. But back in the day, I mean, you were just driving, and most of the wrestlers were just pounding beers. And trust me on this one, it was crazy. And it was probably even crazier in the 80s. I once worked a WCW match at Foxborough Stadium. This is how long ago it was. They didn't even call it Gillette Stadium yet. And Axe and Demolition were there. And obviously, Gillette Stadium has an outdoor, or Foxborough is kind of outdoors, right? So they had these area for us, so we didn't have to run into the dressing rooms all the time. It was like porta potties and stuff like that over there, like a sink, portable sink, things like that. And I forget which one it was. Axe or Demolition looked at me, and he turns back to one of the Powerhouse twins getting out of one of the porta potties, looks at me and goes, "From the penthouse to the house, kid, can happen to you too. Stay in college." And I was like, really? We're doing a PSA back here as you're offering me painkillers? Because Rick Fuller had decided to hurt me that day. I don't know if his girlfriend broke up with him or whatever, but he was out to get me. You didn't get me, Rick. I'm still standing. All right. Question number 3. You weren't around then. We already covered that. But being able to go back and see how wrestling developed, do you agree, as I do, that WCW and ECW were the best things at the time to push wrestling in the direction that it needed to go and give Vince that kick in the ass that ultimately allowed him to do what he did and buy them all up? But at first, it was a hard-fought battle, and I believe it pushed wrestling in a very good direction. It's called the Attitude Era for a reason, and a lot of people think it was one of the better eras of wrestling. How do you feel about all of that?
Oh, absolutely. Competition makes everything better. You know, kind of like we were talking about earlier with TNA and AEW and WWE, just like the competition within each company, even Japan, and it just makes for, I guess, somewhat better storylines and better wrestling on television. And without the dues, I guess the dues that were paid through ECW and WCW and making Vince do what he did with the Attitude Era and the ruthless aggression and so on. Without that, I don't think, like you said, it wouldn't be any great wrestling here today.
All right, best tag team of all time.
See, I grew up on like Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys, Edge and Christian. Even today with the Usos, New Day as well. But if I had to just choose one, just the consistency, the level of matches that they were able to have that were classics, I would just have to give the edge to the Hardys.
Yeah, the Hardy Boys definitely did some things back in the day. I'll go back to my age group, and two tag teams that you need to watch would be, and these would be my pick for the top 2 tag teams of all time: the Road Warriors and the Steiner Brothers. That's it right there. If you've never seen a Steiner Brothers match, these big boys were doing things that no one else was doing back then. And the Road Warriors were just a force to be reckoned with. They still, to this day, when you get a huge pop that just rumbles the arena, the back of the house still calls it Road Warriors pop. Still to this day. And those kids back there don't even know who the Road Warriors are anymore. But they got it done. All right, question number 5. Do you think Vince McMahon has what it takes to be successful in the wrestling industry again?
Absolutely not. Based off of everything that has been going on with him, um, everything that you said that we know for sure that he done, just that reputation is just going to follow him forever now. And so for people to be able to put money back into his pockets after everything that is public now, I think that's going to be very hard.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get a lot of public support. He did what he did for the industry when he did it. His time is over. Let them figure it out. Paul's doing his best that he can to figure it out. I think it's going to be. They have a new TV show coming up where they're going to let you into the writers' room. I don't know how much. I understand how much the public wants to see that. I don't know how much of that the public needs to see, especially right now. It would be a better show if they took an unknown writer, one of the people who walk the streets who have never gotten into the industry before, made them a writer, and you watch them kind of like Hard Knocks or whatever. We watch them develop and see if they can get in there and see what they bring to the table. That could be interesting because we need to get involved in these characters' lives. Something that we're not doing enough of in the actual show itself needs to be brought to the opposite end of that table and discussion where I need to care about these writers. Why are you going to watch just to hear them fight over storylines? No. That's not fun. You're going to have to make us get invested with these writers on some personal level. And hopefully we can start to do that a little bit more with the character development with the actual athletes. I know we're in a pretty good place in wrestling because it is very athletic and we're getting to see some great stuff happen. But the promos, oh God. Oh man, I learn how to cut a promo. I mean, how about we have a promo cutting class? Like, dude, come on. Even last Monday Night Raw with Sammy and Yeet, that was terrible. They were both like whispering to each other. Hey, I got your back, buddy. Like literally, I think he said that. If you want to go with the numbers thing, I got your back. That's what Sammy said to him. It's like, dude, go back and watch The Rock just kick the out of promos. The Attitude Era was some of the best promos, some of the best mic work that we get. I do enjoy the fact that Yeet gets over the way that he does, but it's still, I don't know. How many times can I hear somebody say Yeet? Just like Steve Austin's what? That was here for a hot minute, but it got a little bit much. I do enjoy the fact that the fan base is more knowledgeable now. That's fun because we can do a lot more with it, and we'll see if they do a lot more with it. Because I can tell you right now, the reason that they're developing these other shows, like opening up the writers' room, is because Paul and the rest of the crew over, which used to be Stanford, now here in Viva Las Vegas with me, they're feeling the heat and they don't want to get out of the kitchen. So what they're going to do is continually buy up smaller promotions. They just purchased a couple leagues in, I believe, Mexico. And there's some leagues coming together in Japan. Actually, Japanese the big three independents in Japan have culminated and come together, and they are going to try to bring some heat over here in the States. So we may get to see some great Japanese wrestling. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch any of the stuff that they do overseas, it's absolutely amazing, and they've been doing it for years. Hulk Hogan actually worked when he would go over to Japan because you can't get over without actually working in the ring. So you would actually see some actual wrestling out of Hulk Hogan when he went overseas. He never did any of that stuff here, man. He couldn't even do a good leg drop. But that didn't stop him from helping sell out a 96,000 seat stadium. All right, Kendrick McKnight, otherwise known as Life of Kendrick. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, sir. I am on TikTok, Kendrick McKnight 30, Instagram, Kendrick 30 _ and and X, Kendrick McKnight.
All right. Well, thank you for being here today. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. Be good to yourself and be kind to others. Pay it forward, play it forward. Rock like a party star, party like a rock star. Smile strong, laugh loud. Last but not least, please like, follow, and subscribe so you will know where I will be next. And I'll tell you this, we've got a week full of fighter interviews coming at you. So don't go anywhere. And hey, if you can't be quick, be fat, or if you can't be good, be quick. And always remember, everyone loves a good fight. We'll see you next time.